Hey, welcome to Grace in the Chaos, a podcast of real-life insights from parents of children with special needs. I'm Dr. Ryan Rush. I'm here with my friend and co-host, Chris Sneller, Dr. Chris Sneller. I keep forgetting to say that.
Some call me that, but not in my home.
Well, we both have PhDs, but nobody cares at our houses. We're not here for that reason. We're here because we are living this journey, being parents of special needs kiddos, and we have the privilege of talking with friends who are on the same journey, and hopefully we'll say some things that will be a blessing to others who are listening, so they can have either some perspective, or if they're walking this journey themselves, they can have a better understanding of, maybe what's to come and how they can walk through it. So with that said, we have some really special guests today.
We do. It's great to be with you again today, Ryan. Grace in the Chaos allows us to tell stories of some wonderful friends. These are stories from friends who have walked through a journey, and today they're going to get to share some of that journey with us. And we see a child in the window right now, smiling and looking on.
That's what's fun about this particular podcast. Yes.
So today we have with us Darrin and Sara Smith, and so thanks for being with us, Darrin and Sara. We appreciate it.
Good to be here.
Let's start with this. Could you tell us a little bit?
Darrin said good to be here. Sara did not say good to be here. She doesn't really love the cameras. And so
I wanted to see if there really was a kid over there.
There really was. They're good now. She was. But
she's
just checking things out.
Okay.
So tell us about yourself. What's your story? How'd you meet?
Well, I guess I will start. My name is Darrin. I'm been married to Sara for almost 26 years now. Grew up all over the place, but kind of settled right across the street at Taylor High School, where we met. We met in 11th grade in chemistry class, and went to prom our senior year at Taylor. Went to A&M and kind of meandered through our relationship a bit, and were married our senior year in 1998.
Senior year in high school?
College.
Okay, that's
Just double check.
it makes for a better story the other way.
Would have been 4 more
For those
years.
who are listening from some other locale than where we're recording, we're at Kingsland Baptist Church recording. We're across the street from Taylor High School in Katy, Texas, and it's all just right here. The circumference of a lot of life change in your lives.
For sure.
Okay.
Very true.
Okay, so Sara, you tell us a little bit about your family.
Okay. So we have 4 kids, and the funny thing is, when we first got married, we said we were going to have zero.
Zero.
Really?
That was the plan.
That was really funny. So now we have 4, and so 2 are in college, and then 2 are still home with us and may always be home with us. Who knows? But we have a 22-year-old, an 18-year-old, a 15-year-old, and a 11-year-old. Thank you. You got it right this time. It's great.
Okay.
Okay, so your younger 2 joined your family via adoption.
Yes.
That's correct.
This podcast is focused on families with special needs kids, but tell us a little bit about the adoption journey for you guys. Why'd you decide to do that?
You want me to go?
I don't know. It started back, like a long time ago. We thought about being foster parents way back long ago because I have adoption in my family. And then he went on a mission trip with the Indonesian orphans from the tsunami, and that really changed his heart. And we heard a message about, what were those called?
It was social injustices. So there was a
about
message
how many orphans there were in the world, and we were just like, ooh, and we couldn't stop thinking about it. So I was afraid to bring up any kind of special needs adoption because I knew he had a retirement plan. But then
You do have a retirement
yes,
plan.
You do.
but then God put it on his heart too, and brought it up to me, and to me that was God just confirming the 2 considerations that we had. And so in 2011 we finally started pursuing that, and we were matched with a special focused child, which means they're a little bit older and they have some medical needs. He was 3, and he had several medical diagnoses from vision, vestibular, deaf, spinal anomalies, other developmental anomalies. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so one of the real kind of hard moments for us, we went to Baylor's International Adoption Clinic, and you bring your packet of medical info and you kind of put it on, or you send it ahead of time, but it's on the table. And we sat at this table with, I don't know, it was like 6 doctors or 5 doctors. And basically they said, we're not sure where your child is, but it's possible he's brain dead. Like he can't, wow. he's just completely unable to respond. And we're not sure, do you want to continue with the adoption? And so driving home, we said, well, wow. If it was our bio kid, we would pursue this child, and God's put this on our heart. So let's continue that.
Wow.
Wow. So I normally ask at this time, like, how did you begin your special needs journey? But this is one of the rare cases in that God put this on your heart before you had custody of your children.
Yeah, that is unique.
Yeah.
Was there an aha moment? I mean, you both said the Lord kind of brought you to that place. Was there one moment where you recognized, okay, this is what we need to do?
I think for us, when we decided to adopt, there were several stories that led us to China and led us to Corbin, but the overriding theme was, and this was our journey. There's other adoption journeys that are different, but ours was any child born in America probably has a better shot than an orphan in China. And the just challenges they face, and then a special needs orphan in China being that much, just further away from independence, right? And so kind of our journey was, well, if we're going to do this, let's find a child that's otherwise completely discarded, right? Just not part of their society, not looked after, and not to discount domestic adoption and things that happen here, but that's what God was doing in our heart.
But the Lord called you both to that. Sarah, would you add anything?
No, that was like a perfect summation. I just still remember where we were when we came to the realization we were on the same page. And I can still remember that very vividly. Like,
don't you kind of need those moments? Like for my wife, Monica, and I, we look back on our adoption of Eliza, who was our child number 6, and we needed the assurance that God was guiding and leading us to do this, because years down the road, when significant challenges came into our life with her attachment, her disabilities, we needed to look back and go, God led us to do this, and we had that bedrock memory and commitment, because without that, we might have gone crazy, but we knew God was calling us to, and if he called us to do it, he was going to provide and take care of us as a couple, us as a family, and Eliza and her future. So on this journey, what has surprised you the most?
I think a couple things. We didn't really appreciate what all special needs parents appreciate, which is the express bus to the med center is running constantly, and so in the first
therapies,
the first year and a half with Corbin, maybe longer than that, and then the first probably that same time with our second one, it was back and forth to the med center. Sarah was like full time, just taking the kids in and out, and I think the second one, when we had a typical family, we zippered well. I think I used that phrase in our community group, but we zippered well with other families. Like you'd find a family and they've got
great illustration,
kids your age, and mom and dad get along, and so you just kind of do the, the Katie bubble family thing. And that worked a little bit with our first adoption, as long as the kids were small enough that communication wasn't an issue and they could just kind of play. But we found that after, there was a demand for him to relate to somebody and for our daughter to relate to somebody, that we just we didn't zipper with anybody.
And the reason we have the daughter is because we really wanted someone for Corbin, and we never found that person.
Him to have community, a language friend.
So that was our other surprise.
Get along with,
that we pursued another adoption specifically for him. But,
wow.
So.
Which, I mean, what an act of love, but then to think also of the big picture of how the Lord was already setting apart your kiddos to be together for life, and it's awesome. When you think about maybe the lesson or lessons that you've learned as a special needs family, are there any, or is there any that has risen to the top that maybe you could share with some other special needs families that are just getting started?
Yeah, I think probably a really current journey for us is our daughter being diagnosed with ADHD. And I think for a long time, I would have been in the holier than thou camp of, oh, you're medicating your kid, and you just and not really understanding, and then just seeing the life change of the medication that our daughter's on, and how that really just takes her and puts all the best on display, and takes the really the challenge of distraction and the kind of cloudiness in her mind and repairs it. And so I think for me, one of the current lessons, there's a ton, but one of the current ones would be, the world's not going to understand what's going on with you and your kid, and they're going to have their own bias, and we're going to be biased against to other special needs parents with different diagnoses, but seek what's right for you, seek your medical attention, and pray those things through.
So allow me to reword this for a second, because I think this is a really important lesson for families. Is you have to find the place where you have freedom to choose what the Lord leads you to do for your child.
Yeah.
Recognizing there's almost always going to be antagonistic voices.
For sure.
Depending on the situation, they're going to be aggressive or non-aggressive, sometimes in social media, sometimes in person, sometimes they're family,
Oftentimes.
Gotcha. But that's, so you got to navigate, okay, this is what God's led us to do. And when you do that, is there some mechanism that you guys use where you say, okay, this is when we know that this is the path we're going toward?
Yeah, for us, I think the aha moment was releasing who she really is, and so it wasn't like I just would assume those medications for that specifically are just calm the kid down, sedate them, almost, mute their personality. And what we found is it's the opposite. Her personality really has blossomed.
Oh, that's great.
And so I think in that specific case, I think what we're looking for is, is it allowing the child to be more of who they really are, and sort of helping them express themselves.
And think about the dynamics of all of our relationships, including the siblings, the older siblings, even, the one that's still here at home with her, all have improved, including our, with us too.
Just the dynamic at home has improved with that change for her.
Yes.
Could you educate Ryan and I and our listeners on, I think, something very important? When we invited you to this podcast, this is really for special needs families. And the deaf community out there might be frustrated with that language. Could you just educate our listeners on the most appropriate language help us with that, because we really do want to use the right language.
And there's such a spectrum of how people identify on. Are they deaf? Are they hard of hearing? Are they in the culture? Are they just, with the hearing world? It really depends.
Yeah, so probably a good starting point would be if you define a culture, some of the characteristics of a culture would be common language, common behaviors, common identity. And so in the deaf community, they see it more as a cultural affront if you say, well, if you try to treat that as a special need. It's like, no, it's our language, it's our identity. Okay. And so there's definitely some challenge around how does that get approached. And then, like Sarah said, it's super diverse, right? And so there's technology debates, there's debates about how to educate, all the things that if every point you would say that's a cultural issue. How do you educate? How do you communicate? How do you relate to each other? And so casting it as a special need, I think, is difficult. Of course, it's the norm in the education system. You see that.
But within the community, that would be an offensive statement or language. So we just need to be aware of that.
For some.
Maybe.
For some.
Good to know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good to know.
I mean, ours both have multiple diagnoses other than also being deaf.
So it's a spectrum of issues.
For us, we have kind of all of it.
But I'm glad you went there, Chris, because there's a deeper issue. It seems like the deaf community or hearing impaired in general has been ground zero for something that is expanding, where we have this challenge of, no, this is how she is, thinking of my own daughter, and we want to treasure what she is. We would want her better if, she could.
Yeah.
And others saying, wait, I want to do everything I can to make her life better, and sometimes that's even offensive.
Yeah.
And obviously, so this is a special needs challenge that we all face. That's kind of crazy if you think
Right.
about it, because the reality is all of us want to do the very best for our kiddos, all of them, right?
Yeah.
And we want their lives to be as great as they can, but we also want to find that. It's a high wire act, saying we do value everything that they bring to the table.
Let me expand on that just a bit and give you a window into it from Corbin's perspective. So,
Okay.
so our oldest adopted child is not only profoundly deaf, but he's also unaided by technology. So he's got a cochlear implant, but he can't speak. He can't understand verbal language, and so
It's more for awareness of
Yeah.
emergency sounds, kind
Gotcha.
of.
So
Okay.
if you take kind of that cultural view, like culture is about your people, the more and more people that are in that spectrum of hard of hearing or deaf that become part of the oral world, the speaking world, what we're doing now, it limits his availability of companions. Like they don't learn how to sign, they don't learn how to communicate, they don't show up at deaf functions. And so at the very extreme, and I don't mean that by like, extremist, but
Sure.
but he can't participate in this world, right? There's not a technology that gets him access to spoken language, and so it's very isolating for him. And then the more and more of his peers that get pulled into the hearing community, which is great for them. They can get a job, they can function, they can live more independently, they can make more friends. It just becomes more isolating for the folks that don't have that.
Well, Darrin, Sara, I want to commend both of you on all that you've done in our church community, because you have really sought to engage the deaf community and the hearing impaired community in the broader Katy area. You have worked hard to bring sign language into our worship services. So thank you for all that you've done for that community
You blessed a lot of
around
people.
us. Yes, you have here in Katy. Darrin, you told me a few weeks ago about a really special story involving Corbin on a Sunday morning.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Would you be willing to share that? Because I think that would encourage and bless our audience to hear that story.
Yeah, for sure. So, like all good stories, it starts in pain. So, we were having a struggle getting Corbin off his technology and getting ready for church. And so he wanted to play video games, and I wanted, maybe selfishly, but I wanted him to help me cook some breakfast and learn some life skills and interact. And so through this struggle, shall we say, he wound up in his room.
It's not just shall we say, it was a serious struggle.
It was a struggle.
Okay, let's be clear. This was a
let's be
very
honest
painful
here.
Sunday morning for
Yeah,
you.
so he wound up in his room, and if you can just put yourself in the shoes of a parent of a deaf kid, when they lock their door, when they shut their eyes, I mean, the world is shut off to them. You can't talk to them while they're sobbing. It's over, right? And so he was shut down and locked his door, and I went to try to figure out how to unlock it, and he wound up unlocking it and opening it for me, and I went in and was rubbing his back and just kind of writing on his back, what can I do? And Sara came in and she tried tactile sign, where you
Sign under the hands.
in his hands, and he was not responding well to that. And so she walked out, and then he kind of started looking at me, and I said, are you hungry? Do you want to make breakfast? And so we go down to
I thought you wrote tacos on his back.
yeah, we're going to make breakfast tacos.
Yeah.
And so as we're talking, I can't remember if it was in the kitchen or on the way to church, but we're talking about what happened. And he said, well, Dad, while you were on my bed, Jesus came, and he was, signing to me. And he was telling
That is
me.
awesome, isn't it?
He was telling me.
Jesus signs.
Yeah. And it was, every
Never
time.
would have thought, but of course he
Jesus
does.
signs.
Every time Jesus is signing to you, you want to do some test, right? Is this scripturally based? Is this
Right.
is this Jesus? And it was, he's told me to honor my mom and my dad, and he told me to obey and to respect you, and he told me to say I'm sorry, And so it was really, really emotional, right? This is amazing. And so I said, well, later that day, I was like, Corbin, you need to you need to write this down because you're going to want to remember and you're going to want to think about this. And he's like, well, I don't need to write it down because Jesus signs, and so he can sign to me again if he needs to.
Right.
And so I think that's important for a couple of reasons. One, it's just amazing, right?
Yes.
It's something you just don't hear. But you and I, we hear God's voice in our inner monologue. Well, who knows what all deaf people may see Jesus?
Yeah.
Like, how does that work?
Yeah.
But also for folks, I know that Lily's nonverbal.
Mm-hmm.
If Jesus came to my son in his language, he certainly can come to Lily
right.
in hers,
Come on.
right? And so I think that's an encouragement that all parents of nonverbal kids can take away.
Yeah.
Thank you for that
Which
story.
allows us, right, to come back to this confidence we can have that we got to make a decision. There's some that are just really hard decisions that we have to make. Lots of forks in the road, and when we do, to have confidence, the Lord has gone before us. And one of the ways I think that He speaks to us is He puts Lana and me on the same page.
Right,
Sometimes when we have those tough times, but so we can have confidence.
Yeah.
Sarah, I have a question for you next.
Okay.
So you are, whatever age you are, I know what it is, but I'm not going to say.
You don't need to say.
26 years of marriage.
Yep.
Your first couple of years, you're like, we're not going to have any kids. We're just,
Yep.
if you could tell your newly married self anything related to the journey that you've been on,
Funny.
what would you tell your younger self?
I would just start laughing at her and be like, you think you're in control and you think you can make plans, but we know that that all gets thrown out the window. So normal is, what you envision is completely different than what God ends up doing. And like all the things I'm doing now, I never would have pictured myself doing any of them. So just give up control now. That's what I tell her. And I would be like, rest up.
Rest now because you're going to need it.
Now.
Sleep while you can.
Sleep while you can.
Ryan, that issue of control has come up in a lot of our interviews for this podcast. It seems to be one of the biggest lessons that God teaches us through kids in general, but especially kids with the unique challenges that ours have.
Because you're always going to have, right? You're going to have a season where you have to fight that battle in part because you're wanting more control than you've ever had. Like I have to read this and do this and do this, and you have less control than you've ever had.
You want more, you have less.
This is a really bad conflict that we have going on, and something happens when you finally wave that white flag and say, this strategy is not going to work. Like I'm not going to be able to be God from here on out, and it sure is freeing when you get there.
Absolutely.
I say that as though I've saw this puzzle.
When you get
just
closer.
be like the Smiths, and have it all figured out.
We do not.
Said no one ever.
We do not have it all figured out.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to go now to our lightning round. I've been making fun of Chris because you make fun. And so it's time. Now, we've had several episodes to say, the reality is I have not really let this be a lightning round because I usually pause, and it's been very good. And so hats off to you. I should just give you credit, Chris, for coming up with the lightning round. We're going to ask you several questions. You don't need to think hard about the answer. Just whatever comes to mind, say, and you'll bless us, all right?
Okay.
So, Chris, are you ready?
I'm ready. I would love to ask, quick response, best book that you've read recently?
Okay, that's such a hard one.
You read a lot, Sarah. You listen to a lot.
No lightning to reading. Anyway.
Give me a couple good ones then.
Most recent that I finished that I just had to read an actual book of was The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry.
Okay. John Mark Comer, right?
I started listening to it as an audiobook, and I had to listen to it at 3 times speed because it was due at the library.
Oh,
and I thought
3 times
that is
or
too
1.3?
ironic.
3 times speed.
3
I've always
times
wondered
speed.
what kind of amazing people could
No.
pull off a book
Not
at
me.
2 times speed, much less 3 times.
Yeah, I realize that's kind of dumb.
And it is and kind of ironic.
Elimination of hurry.
So then,
3 times through.
yeah. So I'm like, So I ordered the book from Amazon and started reading it very slowly.
normal speed.
At normal speed.
Okay.
And so that ended up being one of my very favorite books. And then I also love memoirs, so I've read a lot of memoirs. I love memoirs.
Great. Darrin, anything to add?
Oh, gosh.
No? Okay, we'll go to the next one.
Wait, you did?
You did?
Don't give him. Don't give him
Okay,
a pass.
sorry. He said.
read a book?
We read Boys in a Boat.
Okay.
Boy
Boys
boat.
in the Boat?
Boys
Boys
in
in
a
a
Boat.
Boat.
University of
Boys in a
Washington road team. Yes.
That one.
Together.
Yes.
I have
It's
not.
fantastic. Turned into a movie recently. It's, I think, available
really?
now. Yes.
Oh,
Perfect.
I know you love movies, Darrin.
he does
I
not love me.
Eat them up.
Favorite food of your kids with special needs?
Whataburger,
Whataburger.
Both of them?
both of them.
It works.
How many
yeah.
times a week do
Or
we go to
pay away.
Whataburger?
Not,
Maybe
not every
once a
week.
month.
Once a month. Okay, that's
Yeah.
pretty good. You have a 3-hour break from your kids.
Oh,
What do both of you do? Either.
together.
What do each of you do? Doesn't have to
is
be.
it together? Doesn't have to be.
I like to go on like little walks or hikes or bike rides. I like to be outside if it's nice.
It's perfect.
Sounds good to
I
you?
think he
Yep.
would probably join me.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you want him to join you?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Unless she's
I
got a
need
good
some
audiobook.
solitude.
All right, we've had several
had a lot
episodes
of the
where the
moms.
husband goes first and says, "Oh, we do this and this and this," and including my wife says, "Not so fast. I'd like some time away from you." She didn't put it. She was nicer
She
than
was
that,
nice.
but we
She
got
was
the
nice
point.
about it.
Maybe
That's
half of
funny.
it alone and
Like an hour.
Right.
and
We need
half of
6
it-
hours.
Lots of the
3 and
moms
3.
talk
3 and 3.
naps and walks and things
Yeah.
like that.
Which is funny
Baths,
because I would
books, yep.
never have wanted to be alone 25 years ago. I'd be
Now
like,
it
yes.
sounds wonderful.
Now I'm like, I just need alone time.
Okay, so reflecting on Leah and Corbin, what is a unique skill or fascination that they have?
Leah is amazing with arts and crafts.
Okay.
And she sees things that I never, and uses for things I never would use something for.
Okay.
So,
Corbin?
Yeah, Corbin, his life goal is to work at NASA, and so I'd say his unique skill would be kind of engineering, math, science, STEM, robotics, that sort of stuff.
Okay.
Wow.
A favorite city in the world? I know you guys enjoy traveling. You're a big Disney fan. You recently went on a big international trip around Christmas time, but favorite city in the world?
I'm not really a big city person. I don't know about you. I like the little towns that are near the national parks.
Okay, national
So-
parks. You did Arcadia for a couple of years.
Arcadia, yeah, we did
Acadia
Arcadia.
last year in
Uh-huh.
Maine.
Yeah, I was
Okay.
thinking Jackson Hole.
Jackson Hole, Wyoming.
That
All
is
right.
a giant
The
metropolis.
giant.
It's
yeah,
great compared,
West
relatively
Glacier.
speaking.
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
So when you think about Lee and Corbin's futures, what dreams or hopes or desires do you have for them?
This is where it gets hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for Corbin, I guess, everyone wants their kid to reach their dreams. And a lot of special needs kids, come with intellectual disabilities or some challenges. And with him, I think it's frustratingly the opposite. He's super bright, super
Yes.
capable. And the dream / fear, if it's two sides of the same coin, is he either gets to live that out or he can't find a company that's going to provide him access to the language
Yeah.
that he needs to thrive and do what he loves to do.
Wow. Well, let's look at the dream side. Let's into that and
Yeah.
think about the technology and where it's going. Who
Right.
knows where
Who
we'll be
knows?
10 years from now
Yeah.
for young adults like Corbin.
Yeah.
To have
That's
full
true.
access. Yeah, that'd be
Absolutely.
amazing.
May it be so.
But I really, really, my dream is for them to have true friendships.
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
true.
Because they have each other and they have a couple friends, but it would be great if they had like true friendships, experience that.
I love that. Guys, you have blessed us today. You blessed a lot of people. We're so grateful to have you here. As you could probably tell from the context clues, we all go to the same church. We get to be a part of Kingsland, and I'm grateful to hang out with you all as well. This podcast, Grace in the Chaos, is brought to you by Empowered Homes. You can go to empoweredhomes.org. There's lots of resources for families, hundreds of them for special needs families like ours. And so I hope you'll check those out. You can read them, listen to them. You can watch them. Depends on the ones. They're
Wonderful.
all there.
Thanks, Ryan.
And really grateful. Thanks, Chris.
Great to be here with you again today.
Yeah, let's do it again. God bless you.